Now I have a couple of illustrations here. I'm going to be doing some demonstrations on black and white, or light and dark. Now we learn how to draw, and we've learned how to draw because this guy, depending on what anthropologist you talk to, this could be 50,000 or 150,000 years ago. So we were drawing with a little bit of light, with charcoal, kind of like this, only this is a knitting needle with a carpenter's pencil that I use to swish around when I'm drawing stuff sometimes. But anyhow, this is how we learned how to draw. And there's little Jody there. When she was learning how to draw, she actually has a little caveman right there. She's learning how to draw. She has one source of light. This guy had one source of light, a stick with some fumes on it. And there he's drawing his dinner and his overcoat. It gets better. So he's drawing that way, and now 50 or 60 or 70, depending on what anthropologist you talk to, 100,000 years later, we're drawing like this, the same way. Now, I was talking to a client one time, and they said, hey, listen, we learned how to draw like that because the cavemen did that. And so that's where I got this. I thought, because I was explaining my other lessons. This is just this little vignette that I put together as to our perception. This is a course in perception. This is really fun. Now, he has a Rolex on. And he has a Rolex on for a reason. Because time is incongruent back there. And so he doesn't know what time it is. I have an illustration up there of an hourglass. Now, dark and light are primitive in the way we execute them, to say the least. Now, this can be demonstrated right here. Well, how are we supposed to draw then, Frank? Well, we're supposed to see with light over dark. We lead with dark over light because this is what they give us when we go to kindergarten and they give us a white piece of paper. Here's your crayons. They give them to you at a restaurant. It's a conspiracy. So, we see through a glass darkly. Now, when the Apostle Paul said that, he wasn't talking about Ray-Bans. He was talking about perception. We're dark seers. Why is that? Well, I have a really dark ship in a light day. That's the Queen Elizabeth from World War I. Really dark ship in a light day. Well, here I have a light ship in a really dark night. Now, that was taken off of a painting that I did. I'm just plagiarizing myself. I did a painting of a light ship years ago called the Swiftsure, out there on the seamount, entering into the Straits of Juan de Fuca. And so for particle and wave, that's the name of the light ship. E equals mc squared. Now, this isn't getting crazy. This is real basic. There's particles and waves. There's a light ship on a dark ocean. And there's a dark ship on a light ocean. Well, what's going on here? They're complements. They're opposites. But this one is meant to save lives, and this one is meant to destroy them. We're getting into a little bit of a philosophy here, right? Well, how we're taught to draw is no different than what's going on in this illustration right here. I can go to a dollar store for less than $1 and get a light and shine it into the night. But if I could get a little pen in the daytime and blast the beam of darkness, is that possible? So light and dark are not opposites. Maybe they are in drawing, but that's what this is all about. Maybe they are in drawing, but in physics, you can't do this. If I could do something like that, I'd be hanging out in one of my 24 yachts all over the world. Can't do it. But that's how we're taught to draw, with a dark wand on a light piece of paper. Get it? It doesn't matter. Go get scratchboard or dark canvases. Start mid-tone. You know, it's called chiaroscuro. You meter up and meter down in the middle. Midtones. But when you're going into perception, it's different. What's going on here? Vase and profiles. This is switching back and forth in my mind. That's why art is so interesting. It's because of this kind of stuff. Am I seeing a couple of ladies looking at each other with a vase? I was going to have a couple of paintbrushes coming out of that one, you know, for the art group. What about this one? Now I have a whole bunch of birds and stuff flying back there. See, this was pioneered a lot recently by M.C. Escher. There's an M.C. Escher I bought online there. You're going up the down staircase and you're going down the up staircase. And this is an illustration I did of a top view of the Great Pyramid. And so you can see back and forth. The pyramid's in the back, and then it flips towards the front. And if you can do it at the same time, quote unquote time, you'll be able to perceive as a draftsman both light and dark together simultaneously. We have our dark wands when we get here. That's fine. You know, now you have these computers these kids are on, and it's just a binary code. Here's an illustration of the binary code. It starts with the 13 colonies. Pretty basic, dark and light, red and white. I didn't want to do the stars. They got really too complicated. Anyway, there's only 48 of them there. But then you can do dark and light into a double binary by just adding a bandwidth, a little bit of a width, 4 widths. You have a barcode that basically goes into infinity, into an infinite language. And then if you double that, you know, you hear a lot about exponential these days. And if you double that, these biological codes in their core are really, really basic. They're very, very basic. But then they explode. And that's what happens in M.C. Escher and dark ships on bright days and light ships on dark nights. I had that painting that I took this from. It's a big painting, and it was called the Swiftsure because it was over a seamount. And I had it, or Hazard, I had it at a display at a boat show, and this old guy comes up to me and he says, you know, I used to work on that boat. And I said, really? He said, yeah, it was the best job in the world. I said, what was that? He said, well, you know, they have a seamount out there. And the little fish really like seamounts. You know, this boat was parked on top of it as a beacon. And in the old days, he used to have to man them. So this guy got a gig on it. So he's explaining why this is a great gig. And he says these little fish like to hang around these shallow waters. And the medium-sized fish, well, they like to eat the little ones. And then you know those big ones, well, they like eating the medium-sized ones. And then we get to go fishing and catch the big ones. Particle wave, E equals mc squared.